Hi, third grade. This is Miss Comers today, and I'm going to be teaching you about similar figures. This is our math lesson for May 6th. It is lesson 20.3, similar figures, page 412 to 413. Mrs. Burrows taught you about congruent figures the other day, and we know that with congruent figures, they have to be exactly the same size and shape. Similar figures are just that. They're similar, but they're not exactly the same. Figures that have the same shape but may have different sizes are called similar figures. Now in this section right here, they show you some examples of what similar figures are. We've got two triangles. One's just a little smaller than the other one. And the same with right here, we have a square that's smaller than this square. On this side of the line, however, these are pairs of figures that are not similar. They're not the same shape. This one, it's easy to tell because it has something on it that looks like a peak, kind of like a house. So we know that it can't be a similar figure because it's not even the same shape. But when I look at my two triangles here, I look at that and go, I wonder why these are not considered similar. Well, if I take a look at it, I look right here, this is a scalene right triangle. Okay, scalene, remember, means that none of the sides are equal. Whereas this one, I have two squares here and two squares there, so I know it has to be isosceles. So I've got a scalene triangle here and an isosceles triangle here. And like I said, I know that because this side is 2 squares long and this side is 2 squares long. When you enlarge or reduce the size of a figure, the figure you make is similar to the first one. But keep in mind, it is very, very important in this lesson to remember, it has to be exactly the same shape, but just a different size. Now, they do have a little activity here for us, but we didn't send grid paper home, so I want you to just watch on this part. It says, copy the figure at the right on 1-inch grid paper. Copy one square at a time. This is what 1-inch grid paper looks like. Each one of those squares is exactly 1 inch. Now, the way that we would copy this is I find my top here. I look at my figure. I'm going to go down one row, and then I'm going to color 3 squares. And then I'm going to continue and go down and across and so on and so forth. And just in the effort of time here, I already drew one out. So mine turned out like this. If you'll notice, I went 1, 2, 3. Then I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like it did up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And as you can see, they are similar, but they are not congruent. They have the same shape, but not the same size. The second part of this says draw a figure on 1 centimeter grid paper. Okay, and I do have some of that. Once again, we didn't send it home with you, so I just want you to watch. This is the grid paper for that. Each one of those squares is exactly 1 centimeter apart, and we're going to do the same process. I'm going to find and do 3 squares, I'm going to do 5 squares, and so on and so forth, until I get something that looks like this. Okay? If you take a close look, it looks a lot like what's up here. Okay? If we count the squares, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. And I can even hold my other one up next to that. And there's an example of similar figures also. This one is on a smaller grid. This is on the larger grid. And we know that those are not congruent. Those are also similar because one's bigger than the other. Figures that are the same shape are similar, no matter what size they are or what position they are in. Okay, You'll need a piece of notebook paper for this next part. On this next part, we're supposed to explain whether or not these two figures are both similar and congruent. Okay? Now, if you take a look at those, what do we have there? Okay, we have two rectangles. Now, the figures have the same shape. I have a rectangle and a rectangle. Okay. So we consider them to be similar, but they're different sizes, so they're not congruent. So yes, they're similar, but they are not congruent. Because remember, congruent, you have to have exactly the same size and shape. So they are similar. Okay, on this next part, we're going to tell if these appear to be similar. And you're supposed to write yes or no. So let's take a number 2. I've got 2 circles. Okay, this one's an easy one. They're not congruent because they're not the same size, but they are similar because they're the same shape, but just different sizes. I have one little circle and one big circle. Okay. And how about the next one? This one's kind of a tricky one. Okay, if I look at this shape right here, both of these are rectangles, correct? However, I would have to have something smaller or larger in order to make that similar. They're not quite the same thing. This would also have to be a little chubbier there too. So this one is not similar. Okay, so we're going to write no for number 3. On number 4, this is another very, very easy one. I've got my triangles here. Okay, I have one that's smaller. They're both right triangles. I just have a smaller one and a bigger one. So I know that they are similar. Same shape, different sizes. Okay, number 5, same thing. We have a couple trapezoids there. Okay, if we take a look at those, I ask myself, okay, are they the same shape? Yep. Are they different sizes? Yep. So they have the same shape but different sizes, so yes, they are similar. Now, 6 is another tricky one. Let's take a look at that. I want you to take a look at that for just a minute. Okay. And it says, we have a little dip in it there, but what do you notice about the top here? That one doesn't have that little notch cut in it, does it? Okay. So, I have to think to myself, well, I know that similar figures have to be the same shape, but they can be different sizes. These are kind of the same size, but they're not the same shape. I notice that this one does not have that notch out of the top, so the answer is no, they're not similar because they're not the same shape. Okay, number 7. We have 2 ovals, one sitting this way and the other one sitting that way. Now, those are exactly the same shape, but they're different sizes. This one's a little smaller than that one. Okay. Now, on numbers 8, 9, and 10, it says to use 1-inch grid paper. Okay? I want you to just kind of take a look at these and know, I want you to remember back to when we had the 2 different kinds of paper and what you think that might look like. Okay, remember these 2 pieces of paper? Okay. Now, I am going to go ahead and draw them on here so that you can take a look. Okay, I know that I have a rectangle here, so I have to draw a smaller rectangle, don't I? Okay, so I'm going to take my pen here, and I'm going to make him littler. Okay, I'm only going to take up 2 squares there. And as you kids know, these pens on here don't work the greatest, but you get the idea. Okay, so that would be similar figures. I have two rectangles, but one's smaller than the other. Okay, now how about on this one? It's a plus sign. So as long as I do one square and another square and another square, okay, it's a little bit smaller. They're now the same shape, but they aren't the same size, are they? Okay. And how about number 10? I've got some stair steps here, don't I? So as long as I draw my picture to look the same way, if I go on a smaller scale here, and I do 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, and if I color that in, okay, it still has 4 stair steps, but it's not the same size, is it? Okay, my board's not being cooperative today. There's lots of white spots. There we go. Okay, now I have the same shape, just different sizes. Okay? Now, I want you to try drawing these next ones just on your lined paper. You're going to do 11, 12, and 13 on your own. And basically what you're trying to do is make sure that you count. Okay? You're just going to make something a little smaller or a little larger. You could do it on white paper or anything you'd like. Okay? Now, let's look at number 14. Reasoning. Do figures have to be in the same position for them to be similar? Okay. I want you to think back to what it said up here. And if we go back up here, way up here, it says right here, figures that are the same shape are similar no matter what size they are or what position they are in. So there's our answer to the problem we were just working on. If we take a look at that, do figures have to be in the same position for them to be similar? Okay, the answer is no. And we go back to that same part and we explain that it doesn't matter what position they're in as long as they are the same shape but different sizes. Now, on number 15, this is where things get a little crazy. It asks us, are all rectangles similar? Okay, the answer to that is actually no. Not all rectangles are the same shape. And it's like that one that we had before. It was a little chubbier, wasn't it? If two rectangles are the same length, but one is wide and one is narrow, they are not similar. Okay? Number 16, write about it. Draw a design on 1-inch grid paper. Have a classmate draw the design on 1-inch grid paper. Are the designs similar? How can you tell? Well, obviously we're not in class right now, so that's not something that we can actually do. So we're going to skip over that part. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at your homework. Okay, so I'm going to put that back on the pointer there. Maybe. There we go. And we'll take a look at your homework for this one. Okay. What we're going to be doing on here is doing a little bit of drawing, and this actual assignment works much better if you have a ruler available, because you can count out your squares and then use your ruler to draw a straight line. Now, number 1 says figures that have the same shape but may have different sizes are called blank figures. What goes there? What has our whole entire assignment been around? Okay, so we're going to write similar right here. Oops, got to put it back on the pen. Okay, for numbers 2 through 3, you're supposed to draw a similar figure. Use the grids below. Okay, they give us 2 to work with here. Okay, so if you take a look at this one right here, we have a picture of a trapezoid. We're going to draw it down on this one right here, and the easiest way to do that is just start counting. If I look here, I see I have 1, 2, 3 squares, and I'm also 2 from the side, okay, and I'm 2 from the top. So I'm going to put a dot here and 1 here, okay, and then I see that I have to go down 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go down 3 from that, 1, 2, 3, and I know that my next point should be right about there. And I'm going to do the same on the other side, 1, 2, 3, and so I'm going to put my point there. Then I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to go ahead and draw lines here. And hopefully yours are a little straighter than mine, because hopefully you have a ruler. Okay? And this is a much bigger grid than what we have up here. So now we can say that our figures are similar. Now, you're going to do number 3 exactly the same way. Take a look at what you have here. You've got your smaller grid here. You're transferring this on. It's all about counting. So go ahead. You've got 2 sides over. I'm 1 down, so I know I need to put a dot there and a dot there. And then I see I've got 2 spaces in between. So then I'm going to end up right here. So I'm going to put a dot there and a dot there. And then I notice I'm 1, 2, 3, 4 down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to put my dot there. And the same on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, oops. Board's not quite matched up. Okay. And then I see that this part in between is 2 squares high. So I'm going to put a dot here, and I'm going to put a dot here. Then you just go ahead and connect using your ruler. I'm going to go across there. Okay, and your figure should look similar to what you drew up above. Okay, on number 4, it says draw a figure on one grid and then draw a similar figure on the other grid. Okay, this one's all on you. You can choose whatever figure, but you need to count it out, just the way we did up here. I would stay away from anything that has rounded edges. Try and keep some straight edges. But you could do a plus sign, you can do a square. There's all kinds of things you can do. Okay, and on these, this is just a little mixed review to remind you of our triple digit multiplication. Remember, the parentheses tell us do me first. So that's what you're going to do. Okay? Okay, now on this other side here, you're going to do exactly the same. Okay? We did the hard side first. I'm going to let you do the easy side on your own since we're not with you on this. It says change the size of each figure, make a similar figure by using the grid below. Okay, this is just the opposite of what we did on the other side. You're going from a larger grid on some of these down to a smaller grid. Okay, remember to count and put your points first and then go ahead. Okay. Now, this one is the challenge one. This is the hard one. Okay, they've even put some letters and some numbers for you. It says you can make a small drawing larger. Look at the design on grid 1. The columns and rows have numbers and letters. Now look at the larger grid. It has the same numbers and letters. Put your finger on letter B on the small grid. Move your finger down the column until you reach the number 5. Okay, this is what they're talking about. You're going to match up here. We're in column B, row 5. Okay. Find the B5 square on the larger grid. Draw the same part of the design. Okay, so this is pretty much the same as what we were doing, but you're going to draw it on the big one here. And you're going to shade it just like this one is. So make sure that you have a crayon or your pencil to color it in. Okay. And finally, this is one that you're going to do on your own. It says write the correct answer. You may refer back to your pages in your book. Remember, those are on pages 412 and 13. You have to tell us if the two figures are similar. Write yes or no. Now remember, they don't have to be in the same position. For example, if I look at this first one, 3, 3, 1, 1 on top. They're in different positions, but they're on the same shape. So what's our answer on here? Are the two figures similar or no? Our answer is yes, they are. And these two also happen to be congruent. Okay? Now, your job on this next one is to draw a figure similar to the following figure. You're going to use the grid, and you'll continue to do the rest the same way. Make sure that you follow the directions, okay, and that you go ahead and mark the correct answers.